So my intent with this session is to talk a little bit about what students need to be thinking about as they pull together their list of schools that they'll visit, maybe the list of schools that they'll ultimately apply to, and just sort of keeping an open mind about this as we go forward. I have a sheet that you can pick up at the end, and it's advice, do's and don'ts when you are considering applying to college and visiting schools and all of that. I would encourage you to do your research outside of what I'm going to present you, what your college counselors. We always sort of think that this is a research project. You're learning how to do research in your classes, and you need to take this as something as serious as that other type of research that you might be doing for one of your high school classes. So with that in mind, who here are juniors, the students? Are you most, okay, I got 2 hands, that's a double junior. All right, and who are sophomores? Okay.
She has an identity crisis.
I got confused.
Okay, so are you a sophomore?
Yeah.
Awesome, okay. It's okay, it's good. Aspire to be a junior, because you will be a junior very soon. So I think as you are, so for the sophomores, what I want you to do is just sort of sit back, listen, do the things that you can do with your college counseling staff here. On your own time, I want you to be thinking about the self-assessment piece that I'm going to be speaking to in just a second, and also doing some great research about, okay, if I have a dream school, why is this particular institution a dream school for me? What are the characteristics about this place and how that might play out, and maybe those kinds of characteristics that you might find in other institutions that might also be on your list. One of the things that I think is really important for you to do is, first, for the juniors, you're going to have to own this process. It's your process, it's your school, it's your next 4 years. And so it's important for you to know that. I just told a whole bunch of parents in here that to kind of lay off a little bit and put you in the driving seat, to let you do this, but also that you're going to do this responsibly, and you're going to do this in a mature way, and you're going to do this thoughtfully, so that those people, like your parents, like your teachers, like your college counseling staff, like your siblings, will inform you in good ways, but you think of yourself as the CEO of your own college search, and you need to delegate responsibility along the way. You need to engage in the process along the way constantly, sometimes more intently than at other times, and that it's not the responsibility of the adults in your world to get you into college. It is your responsibility to make that happen. And so that is really important for you to understand. The second thing is, please know there's more than one school out there that's a good fit or match for you. There are nearly 4,000 colleges and universities in the United States. Look at all these posters here in this room. And I just think about, oh yeah, that's really great. Oh, it would be so cool to go there for 4 years. If I probably, in a dream, I probably attend college till I retire, if I could. And that's why I've worked at 6 different institutions. Maybe that's why. But I think that there's so many great schools out there that offer amazing educations. But you need to understand what the opportunities are out there, that there are several that probably would be great matches for you, and there are probably several that actually emulate what might be that dream school for you as you start to do the next piece. As sophomores, great time for you to be thinking about this. Juniors, you absolutely should be thinking about this, is the self-assessment piece. You shouldn't be kind of right engaged in the college process right now. You might have, who have visited college campuses? Okay, some of you. Who has been on a college website? Okay, most of you. Okay, good. So one of the things that you need to know is you need to know yourself. Know thyself well. should say this like in the mirror once a week. Know thyself well. So part of the self-assessment is for you to say, okay, so as I think about environment, college, what are the things that are most important to me? You did that a little bit. Parents probably helped you out a little bit when you were seeking a place like Gould, right? You've sort of gone through this. You have a leg up on a lot of the public school kids because they probably haven't done this, right? They haven't gone through perfect, good environment that might help me become my best self. So you get to do that again for the college process. So now you should be thinking about what might be some of the majors of interest to me. College majors, you know, what do I like to write? Do I like to read? Do I like to do research? Boy, you know, I think I might be interested in language. All of those things might come into mind as you do this self-assessment about academics. Because first and foremost, you're going to a place hopefully because of the academic experience that you'll receive. So those are some of the things you need to be thinking about. Believe me when I tell you, you do not need to decide the rest of your life's future on your major now. Most of the time I have Yale students with me when I'm presenting information sessions, and I always say to them, so are you guys studying the same thing you thought you'd be studying as you enter Yale as a freshman? I'd say right now 100% of the time they say no. I'm actually studying something different. It wasn't a whole bunch of anthropology, not a whole bunch of engineering at my high school. And I'm so surprised that now I'm a chemical engineering major. Or linguistics. Not a lot of exposure to that as a high school student. So be open-minded about major. Know that your choice, or being undeclared, people think there's this sort of myth out there that being undeclared is, that means I'm undecided, that means that I'm all over the place and that won't be a good thing. Well, liberal arts institutions, we're all about the undeclared major. We love undecided folks. We want you to explore a curriculum. So those are things to keep. It's okay to be undecided. It's okay to be undeclared. So thinking about major in that self-assessment, things you like to do. Then think about the environment. You're in this beautiful, bucolic, gorgeous place called Bethel, Maine. And there are things about this experience that you love. But as you look at college campuses, there are probably aesthetic pieces to the environment that are important to you. Do you think you'd be comfortable in classes that are large in nature? Would you be comfortable in lecture style in the beginning of your college experience, maybe not throughout the 4 years of experience? Think about the ways that you best engage with a teacher, and look for that when you're looking for your college. Those are the things that you should be. Liberal arts, technical, business. I mean, there's different environments, different cultures. You need to be thinking about that also. Where is the best learning environment for me? And I want to hopefully get that when I get to college or university. This other thing that I would ask you to do is think now, write it down. What are the deal makers and deal breakers? Things that you do currently in high school that when you get to college, those are things that will either put a college on your list really quickly because they have a dance. I had a friend whose kids are really into dance. And if they didn't have a dance team, they were not making it on the list. And I thought, wouldn't be the same logic I would use, but it was important to those students. And quite frankly, they did dance all 4 years. They were on the dance team. They competed down in Florida. You know, it was important to them. It was a deal maker, deal breaker. Great. So those things that are most in terms of extracurricular activities, in terms of specific experiences, and if a college doesn't have that, and it is a deal maker or deal breaker for you, think about that. When we lost students when I worked at Fairfield, and we would lose students, it would be because they were trying to piecemeal something into something we didn't have, but it actually in their mind was a deal maker, deal breaker. They might not have been able to articulate it in that particular way. And I think it's important, if those things are something you absolutely have to have as part of your college experience, make sure they're there. Don't try to think, oh, well, I think I could cut a piecemeal. Maybe I could start it on my own. You could, if that is part of your nature, but if it's not, and it's going to take work to start something in a whole different set of skills, make sure it's there. I think the deal maker, deal breaker in terms of the self-assessment piece is important. And then be careful about, in this self-assessment, be careful about hearsay when you're putting together your list. Trust the things that you see on Naviance. I think it's important to hear other people's perspectives, absolutely, as you're sort of doing your fact-finding, doing your research, but make sure that you take that fact-finding in face value and then think about that as you visit schools, as you research schools. And if, trust your instincts as you are experiencing these places in different ways. Trust your instincts and be realistic, okay? Trust your instincts and be realistic. Those are really key as you're putting together your list. Be realistic by the information you see from Naviance, the kinds of guidance that you're going to get from your college counselors. Be realistic about that self-assessment and the things that are really driving your interest in said institution. And make sure that in the end, when you'll hear college admissions folks talk about fit and match, fit and match, fit and match. You'll get sick of that, and holistic. But what you want to know is we want you to be thinking about, no, really, it is about the match. It is about making sure that the things, so be realistic in this process, and make sure that you do the kinds of things that we want you to do. And you're going to have a good list. If you do the research, you don't procrastinate. Please don't procrastinate. I know the college counselors are like, please don't procrastinate. And parents, please don't procrastinate. Because when one is given 15 minutes to produce an essay, how good is that really for class? If you give 15 minutes attention to your homework, how good is it compared to if you give it, let's say, an hour, because you have an hour to give to the homework? What do you guys think? What's going to be better?
15 minutes.
Oh, the 15 minutes, no, the hour. Because you're not rushed. And you're able to sort of like, I have learned when I send out an email to anybody, I don't send it out. I don't write it and send it. I write it, every single thing, even when I'm really rushed, except for when I wrote plain and plain. I will write it, I will read it, and then I will send it. And I have learned that if I don't allow myself enough time to do that, I get myself in all kinds of trouble. And I do not present my best self professionally. So again, when you have to be careful about the procrastination piece, because I don't want you to be in a place where you aren't presenting your best self, that you actually are really proud of all of the places that you've chosen to apply to and where you've applied because you've done your best work. I also want to make sure that in that list of 6 to 8 schools, because I firmly believe that's a healthy number of schools, you can decide how many schools you apply to, but I think you'll find good fits, and possibly a couple reach but reasonable schools to apply to that you'll be able to do that in a really good way, and because you've done your homework. It's really key for you to be the fit piece takes time, it takes good work, and it takes you being in the driving seat and making sure that you do all that you can do in terms of application. The other thing is, you cannot spend your entire senior year doing only application. You don't want to be an application wonk. You don't want to be, all the things I'm doing have to do with the admissions process, and it comes to be May, and you're like, senior year just happened at Gould, what happened? You know, I saw how much fun you have here. Boy, those races, those competitions, all the different things you did this morning that I couldn't do without coffee, or I actually couldn't do. I'm not sure I could make that thing light. I think those are the things that you have to enjoy about your senior year. You're so lucky to be in a place that has neat traditions like this. So keep doing that. Make sure that you put this college piece in perspective and do a good job with it, but that you also are able, because you haven't procrastinated, to have a good senior year. Also, it's imperative that you keep the lines of communication open. All right, I know that you want to please your parents, your peers, your college counselors, the teachers who have taught you all 4 years here at Gould, and they want the best for you as well, but you have to keep the lines of communication wide open. And when you are struggling with this process, that's the best time to communicate that, because we won't necessarily know that. And we also need you to say to us, Mom, back off. Maybe not those exact words, but maybe, Mom, you're stressing me out, and this is why you're stressing me out. Could we talk about this tomorrow? Not right now, because I can't handle it right now, okay? You have to keep this a healthy, open communication all year long, and that could be through Skype. I think most of you bored. It could be through tweeting. It could be through calling the phone and just like talking to your parents. That's good. But all of those things are really important.
Very old-fashioned.
Scary old-fashioned, I know. My kids were like, you took away my technology, because they did something a little crazy. And I said, yes, I did, but you know what? You could use the phone to communicate with your friends. And they're like, phone? I don't want to talk to them on the phone. Like, okay, well, then you don't really want to talk to them. So I think it's important that we understand, and we're proud of you, and we know that you're trying to do the very best that you can through this process. Well, we don't expect you to be perfect. We don't expect you to get it right all the time. We expect you to have moments where you're pausing with fear and saying, okay, I know you want to see my essay, but don't judge me. Just read, just read it, and I can take the feedback, because that will also allow you to have a really good, healthy relationship associated with this process going forward. Open lines of communication, asking questions when needed, taking responsibility with this, and not procrastinating. You do all of that well, you'll fly through this process with flying colors. And if you do this moderately well, you'll fly through this, okay? And the final thing, I read this, it's on the Education Conservancy site. I think it's really important. Everybody thinks this is the most important decision. And it's an important decision. It really is as a 17 or 18-year-old. But it's easy when you're 51, as I am, to say, yeah, it was important, but actually having children, getting married, much more important. And being a parent, sort of all the decisions you make as a parent are pretty much more important than where you decide to go to school. You have to keep that in perspective. So there's this great quote, and I really want you to think about this as you read this. I want you to blow this up. I want you to put it on in your room, and I want you to consider it sometimes when you're having those low moments about, I need to get into the best college. Know that what you do in college is a far better predictor for future success and happiness than where you go to college. I want you to think about that, because I think it's really, really important. Hopefully you're all making the very best of your Gould experience, and as you go forward, you will make the very best of whatever said college you get into's experience as well. So tell me what kinds of questions do you guys have for me about the college search and selecting a list and visiting schools. I mean, you've got me for, oh wow, for like 5-10 more minutes.
Yeah, we have time for a couple questions.
Yes.
As I'm an international student from China, and I know that the ranking of the colleges is really important for Chinese students, and I want to ask you, in your perspective, what difference is between the most selective college and other colleges in the
Sure, yeah, ranking, especially for international students, crazy. You know, when I talked about good and the definition of good college, I think, you know, the question is in terms of what's the difference in the schools based on the rank. The ranks are produced on this crazy arbitrary, if it's using U.S. News and World Report ranking that you're referring to, you know, people fill out the surveys and they fill them out anecdotally in terms of what they think are good colleges, and that informs how these schools are ranked. It also is informed in lots of different metrics in terms of the rating. And I would say a school, this is why I always say that I would be very suspect on any rating system. And you know, people will say, well, it's easy for you to say, look where you work. But no, I've always been very suspect of ratings because I do firmly believe in a good match or fit towards college. That there are kids, I went to St. Michael's College, it's not Yale University. It was the best match fit for me as a first generation college student coming from Hebron, Maine, who didn't know squat about the world. And being able to go and get a liberal arts education, which I wanted, which I couldn't necessarily articulate, but that was what I wanted, in a place that was outdoors, which I wanted, but I couldn't necessarily articulate, probably within the huge umbrella of being Catholic education, because I always wanted to go to Notre Dame, so, you know, St. Michael's was Catholic. Little did I know how much I would really vibe with the Jesuits. I mean, those are the things. Throw rankings away. You know, I wish we could get rid of rankings and look at the other places, the college that changed lives, the websites, the outcomes that are defined by the Career Services Office, you know, you know, places where students go to graduate school. What do they do when they graduate from a place? Those are the things. What do they do while they're students? What are the things that they're exposed to? And I was exposed to anything I wanted to be exposed to during my experience. And I see that, even though it was a million years ago, I see kids in all of the places where I've gone who've really blossomed as citizens, as intellectuals, as students. I mean, they just really, because it was the fit, it wasn't the ranking. And people have done amazing things all over, you know, just look at all these places. And I just think of some of the graduates that I've known that have gone to some of these places and what they've done since they graduated. They didn't go to Harvard, they didn't go to Yale, they didn't go to Princeton. You know, they went to places that really fit their intellectual strengths, really fit their social and social justice interests, that really fit the aesthetic that maybe they couldn't really articulate, but they knew instinctively would be good for them to figure out. You know, all of us want you to reach your best potential, and so it's like trying to figure out that environment that continues you on that continuum of reaching your potential. So I wish, you know, my nirvana would be gone from college rankings. Because then I think there's so many amazing schools out there that get hurt because of ranking, that are not considered because of where they're ranked. Like, I heard this really cool thing. I was looking at Harvey Mudd College on NPR this week about women engineering, Harvey Mudd. And it was fascinating listening to this. And I thought, well, I'm not really interested in engineering, but if I were and I were a woman, I would at least look now at this place because of some of the cool things that were said on the NPR piece. So, and it was one of those things where I was like, huh, go figure. You know, I don't know where Harvey Mudd is ranked. I could care less. But for certain folks, it would be, I bet it'd be a great fit. Great fit.
Any time for
one more question? Yes.
So, my older daughter ended up at the college she's at through an athletic recruiting process. So, and I have a daughter here at Gould who's interested in environmental science. So I'm not aware, other than going to a raw Google search, if you just, without necessarily worried about ranking of who's the best, is there, through some of the tools, are there ways to just, to find schools who have a commitment to, say, environmental science?
Sure.
So that you know that you don't care about, if that's something that she's really interested in, you'd be eliminating all the other schools and saying, okay, here's schools with environmental science programs. I'm just using that as an example. Is there a way to filter?
There is, and I'm sure your college, the college counseling site, can share a few sites. I don't want to. I'm not endorsing this site. I do think it's a good one. I think the new College Board site helps students. You can plug in some parameters, so you can plug in environmental science or environmental studies or environmental engineering if that has an interest, and you can put in parameters, schools that have 5,000 or fewer students, located
urban
in the north.
Rural.
Yeah. I mean, you can put all kinds of parameters in, and out will, spit out all kinds of information.
Here at Gould, we actually do have, a lot of you guys have heard about Naviance, so actually many juniors already took a questionnaire this winter where they answered tons and tons of questions about what they're looking to do for the next 4 years, and each college counselor certainly works with you to find a lot of places, if you don't already have them in mind, to find good matches for you. But Naviance is definitely a really good resource, and that's free and it's right at our fingertips.
And the College Board is free as well.
Yes.
Yeah, but Naviance, you already have that at your fingertips, and that is a really good search engine. There are other places that are for fees. I think between those two, you will have more information than you need from those two sites in and of themselves. So, I'm all about free. There's also a federal government site, and I don't know it right off the top of my head. If I can find it, I'll send it to Brooke. And they too, a couple years ago, and it may be something that they did away with because the College Board site's so robust, but it's a FedGov email, site that you can get information. Again, it's a nice search engine. It also I think has some. We could afford, $20,000 or fewer. Like you can put parameters in terms of affordability as well and such.
I always remember that a friend of mine, when my older daughter was choosing schools based on this athletic process, a friend of mine said to me that his best, and his kids had all gone to college at this point, and he said his best memories of time with his children was sitting on chairlifts with them. He had the best conversations. And my experience is one of my best memories with my oldest daughter was visiting schools. Right. And just having that experience of watching her say, oh, this feels like this, or this, or yeah, or whatever. So after that whole Naviance or College Board process, just the whole trying on.
Right.
And having that bonding experience of experience her reactions to it.
Right.
Was really, those stories we'll remember forever. It was really
absolutely.
Fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you guys learn a lot about yourselves, and the family unit learns a lot about you as well as you go through the process. And I think that's so true. And you will remember this. This is definitely one of those times in your life. While I will again say I don't think it's the most important decision you'll make, it is definitely a memorable time in your life that you will go back to often. So I wish you guys all the best. As I said, there's a piece up here if you'd like to pick this up if you didn't. There's also, I made some copies here of things that I shared with your parents if you want to see what I shared with your parents. My card is here. Listen, I don't, if you just have an interest in asking me a general question about admissions, I'm more than happy to answer it for you. As I said, I've been doing this for a very long time. So I wish you guys all the best, and you're in a good place. So good luck, and now you can have lunch. Thank you.